The rain was coming down in sheets the morning they arrested Jake Turner. He stood there, soaked, tired, and clutching the tiny hand of his 6-year-old daughter, Emma, outside the grocery store. His old pickup truck sat idling in the handicapped spot, its tail light cracked, its registration months expired. Jake wasn't a criminal. He was a single father, an Army veteran who had served 3 tours overseas. But none of that mattered at that moment. All the cops saw was a scruffy man in worn-out boots trying to load groceries he hadn't paid for. When the officer asked him to step aside, Jake didn't argue. He simply said, "Sir, I was going to pay. My card just didn't go through. My daughter hasn't eaten since last night." The officer smirked. "Yeah, sure, buddy. Tell it to the judge." The younger cop laughed as he slapped cold metal cuffs around Jake's wrists. Emma began to cry. 2 hours later, the courtroom buzzed with murmurs as Jake stood before the judge, still in his mud-stained clothes. Emma sat quietly on a wooden bench holding her stuffed bear, her eyes wide and confused. The prosecutor painted Jake as a thief, someone who knowingly attempted to steal food and household goods. Jake tried to speak, but his voice trembled. "Your Honor, I wasn't stealing. My benefits got delayed and—" The judge interrupted. "Mr. Turner, the law doesn't make exceptions for emotional circumstances." The courtroom chuckled softly. Even the arresting officers were smirking in the back row. Then, a deep voice echoed from the entrance. "That's Sergeant Major Turner to you." Everyone turned. An older man in full dress uniform, rows of medals glinting under the fluorescent lights, strode forward with authority. 4 stars gleamed on his shoulder. The room fell silent. The judge blinked. "And you are?" "General Robert Maddox, U.S. Army, retired." The man said firmly. "Jake Turner served under my command in Kandahar. He saved 6 men during an ambush. One of them was my son." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The general turned to Jake, his tone softening. "Son, I thought you were living in North Carolina." Jake lowered his head. "I was, sir. After my wife passed, things got hard. Emma and I have been trying to start over." The general looked around the courtroom, then back at the judge. "Your Honor, this man isn't a thief. He's a hero who gave everything for his country. And now you're about to punish him for trying to feed his little girl." The judge swallowed hard. The laughter stopped. After a long pause, the judge cleared his throat. "Case dismissed." Outside, the rain had stopped. The general placed a firm hand on Jake's shoulder. "You should have called me son. Heroes don't struggle alone." Jake's eyes filled with tears. "Didn't want to be a burden, sir." "You're not," the general said. "Your family." He turned to his aide and said, "Set up housing and a job for Turner today." Then he knelt to Emma's level. "And you, young lady, don't you worry. Your dad's got friends now." Emma smiled shyly, clutching her bear. 2 months later, Jake had a steady job at a veterans outreach center. He helped other struggling vets find housing, food, and hope, just like someone had done for him. Every Friday evening, he'd sit on the porch with Emma, watching the sunset. She'd always ask the same question. "Daddy, is that the general's star?" She'd say, pointing at the brightest one in the sky. Jake would smile. "Maybe it is, sweetheart. Maybe it is." Sometimes the people we judge the quickest are the ones who've sacrificed the most. Kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. The following week, Jake Turner walked into his new office at the Veterans Outreach Center. The building wasn't fancy, just a converted warehouse. But to Jake it felt like home. The walls were covered with photos of men and women in uniform. Heroes who had come home and those who never did. He took a deep breath, touching one of the frames on the wall. The general had kept his word. Jake had a stable paycheck, a small apartment, and most importantly, peace. Emma loved her new school, and every day she ran to the door when he came home yelling, "Daddy, I drew you a tank today." Her laughter filled the little apartment. And after so many silent nights of struggle, that sound was all Jake needed. But Jake didn't forget the day in the courtroom. The laughter, the humiliation, the way everyone looked at him like he was nothing. He started noticing other veterans coming through the center. Some wore the same expression he once did, shame mixed with exhaustion. Men who'd slept in their trucks. Women who'd gone days without eating so their kids could have something on their plate. Jake made it his mission to help them. He'd sit across the desk from them, listen to their stories, and say softly, "I know how it feels. You're not alone anymore." Soon, his little office became a refuge. People came not just for food or housing, but for hope. One afternoon, a young cop walked through the door. Jake froze for a second. It was the same officer who had handcuffed him outside the grocery store. The young man looked nervous, holding his hat in both hands. "Mr. Turner," he began quietly, "I came to say sorry." Jake didn't speak, he just listened. "I was new on the job that day," the officer said. "Didn't understand what people go through after serving. I judged you without knowing you." He hesitated, eyes wet. "My brother just came back from deployment. He's struggling too." "I get it now." Jake took a slow breath, stood up and extended his hand. "Apology accepted, son. Just promise me one thing. Next time you see someone down on their luck, remember this moment." The young cop nodded. "I will, sir." As the officer turned to leave, Jake called after him, "Hey, thank your brother for his service." The cop smiled. "I will. Thank you for yours." That night, Jake sat on the porch again with Emma, watching the stars come out one by one. She rested her head on his shoulder, yawning softly. "Daddy," she murmured. "Yeah, sweetie. Why did that man come to see you today?" Jake smiled faintly. "Because sometimes people change, and when they do, the world becomes a little better." Emma thought for a second, then said, "Like when the general helped us." Jake chuckled. "Exactly like that."